Hey, welcome back to Not Your College Life with Lisa Beals. Today's episode is all about summer. And this summer, I'm giving you the Summer 2020 Coronavirus edition. Okay? Not an alarmist, but I still think we got to talk about it. So stick around. Let's get into it, guys. Okay, so the summer months for your student, the conversations you should be having with them will be regarding their summer plans. For the new and continuing student, they are mostly the same. So we'll talk about that first. Then we'll talk about how the new student summer plans might differ from the continuing student summer plans. And then at the end, we'll talk about the contingency plans that we might need to consider given this year's coronavirus issues, concerns, whatever you want to call it. So for both new and continuing students, their summer options will be almost identical. So what is consistent between the both? What is the same for both new and continuing students for summer options will be employment. Do they need or want to get a job? For a multitude of reasons. So it could be to bridge a gap financially for themselves. It could be something that it's a deal that you've made with them on the tuition promise. It could be something that they're doing to pay their own bills, whether they have a car or insurance or have to pay gas money. It could be that they want to pick up a job that is going to be a resume builder for them, right? So whether it's paid work, whether it's volunteerism, what I would consider your student to keep in mind when doing either volunteerism or paid work would be, is it going to give them experience in 4 key areas? Will it provide them with an opportunity to develop communication skills, either oral, spoken, or written? Will it provide an opportunity for them to develop teamwork skills? Will it develop an opportunity for them to develop leadership skills, whether they're in charge or not? Will it give them an opportunity to develop problem-solving skills? These are all translatable skills no matter what field they're going into. In addition, communication, teamwork, leadership, and problem-solving are all skills that will translate into the classroom as well. So it will never be wasted time. So again, if your student is going to work or volunteer the summer before, the summer between, whatever they're doing, they should be getting out of it one of those 4, ideally all 4: communication, problem-solving, leadership, and teamwork opportunities. Okay? Another thing that is common for both would be classes. Whether it's online or in the classroom, have them evaluate, is there anything that makes sense to get a leg up? Is there anything in the fall that they could take off of their plate in the fall to make that fall semester a little bit easier in the transition? Especially if it's the first semester or if it's a semester that's going to be heavy in the sciences or a lab science. Taking something off of the plate from the fall semester and dropping it in the summer will be so beneficial to your student because it would allow them to just focus on that subject. And in addition, it frees up some much needed time in the fall when they might be having a heavier semester. So whether or not that class applies to their plan of study is important. Doing the homework using Transferology or another transfer credit database tool to assess, talking to an academic advisor are key components. related to making that decision about a class in the summer. Okay, most of the time a summer class is going to be 4, 6, or 8 weeks, so it's not going to consume the entire summer. You will still have time for a family vacation if that's on your list of things to do. Okay, I know many universities for the new student are building in a 4 or 5 week class that butts up against the start of the fall term. So there's not even a gap in between. So you do a 4 to 5 week class, you've got a bridge program that orients your student to campus, and then the fall semester begins. So it still gives you a big chunk of your summer, but it also gets them on campus, gets them acclimated, gets a class or two under their belt so they can develop a sense of accomplishment before 30 to 40,000 other students are on campus with them. Another thing that is consistent for both is just time to read. Reading is good for your brain, it's good for your soul, it's an escape. It is a way to develop your vocabulary as well as, depending on what genre they're reading, right, it could broaden their perspectives. Reading is never a bad idea. Okay, so let's get into one more thing that's the same. One more thing that's the same is do your homework on healthcare. So if you haven't already for your continuing student, and if you haven't already for your new student, y'all need to get on the computer and find out who are your approved providers. If you have a student with an underlying health condition, anxiety, depression, asthma, Crohn's, celiac, whatever the underlying condition, if you're sending a student to university with an underlying health concern, you should already have a contact there that will help with the continuity of care for your student. If you don't, do it now. I've talked about it in a previous podcast, the importance of developing a plan for continuity of care between home and the doctor that your student has had for 18 plus years, and that provider that's going to be taking care of them when they're away from home. Find out who that is, make sure they've met, confirm the insurance, and then know that they have a plan on how to get there, whether it's an Uber, a bus, a friend in the community, an upperclassman in West Lafayette. There's the Townie Moms group that is incredibly helpful, and y'all that don't have the Townie Moms, you're missing out. Find out what pharmacy, what clinic, what hospital is approved, and what the plan is on how to get there. Okay? So, commonalities between new and continuing are work, volunteer, classes, reading, and making sure you have a plan for continuity of healthcare. Okay? Where we differ for the new beginner is, especially in this season of summer 2020 as it's hitting us, we are going to see potential for travel advisories. So your student may not be able to come to campus because they may not be able to leave, or campus may not accept someone from certain states or countries depending on travel advisories. So you should be following your university's webpage as they keep the community up to date on what's happening. Your students should be certainly reading their emails to know what's going on. I will tell you, I have no doubt that every university that could be affected, if they are, they have a plan in place to make sure that your student, as a new beginner, will be taken care of. They will consider online learning. They will consider deferring their classes. They'll consider allowing your student to start their semester at a local university and transfer stuff in. They will be creative. I'm not speaking on behalf of any university, but there are creative options out there. The Federal Department of Education has already dropped some guidelines to help universities figure out how they can make this work for your student no matter where they're coming from if they can't come at the start of the fall semester, so that they're not penalized. If you have a continuing student this summer, things that will affect your student first and foremost will be study abroad. If they had an abroad experience planned, it's done. Not happening. If they have a personal trip, either domestically or internationally, they're going to want to assess that. If they can get there, will they be assured that they can get back in time for fall? What does that mean? They really need to weigh their options. Students that may not want to go home because they are in home is in a highly affected area at present, they should be working with their dean of students to determine what options the university has for them to remain on campus, and whether it's university housing or a nearby an apartment that they could sublet. And then what do they do with their time? Is there employment to be had on campus? Are there classes that I should be taking? Are there any grants or stipends for me as a student that could help financially cover the cost? If I'm going to be here, I may as well be learning, right? Okay. All right. So my goal is to never be an alarmist. I think the media does a sufficient job of that, but certainly we all have an obligation to stay informed. I was looking back in 2009 at the H1N1 virus and all the attention that was getting. My youngest son actually had H1N1 in 2009, and yeah, I remember that because he was profoundly disabled, and he was compromised, certainly, and it was a pretty scary time, but we took care of him at home. My husband and I, who also has an underlying health condition, my spouse has asthma, so he and I took care of my son at home, supportive treatment with nebulizers, monitoring the fever, treating it with over-the-counter fever reducer. Our 2 daughters were at home. He was the only one that got it. We did not transmit that H1N1 to anyone else in the household. I'm not saying that's the same way coronavirus is going to play out, but just read the information from the CDC. Take your advice from them, not the media. And I hope this podcast has been helpful in helping you plan out what summer might look like for your student, conversations you should be having with them. And if you are a subscriber to my email, you will be sure to get a link to my Pinterest board with all of these topics covered for your benefit. In addition, I would make sure you subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform that you follow. It is free to subscribe. Leave me a review if you have time. I would really appreciate it. That also lets the platform know that I'm providing information that you find helpful. If you find it helpful, I'm going to also ask you share it with someone who you think is going to benefit. That would be amazing. All right, you guys, I appreciate your time as always. If there is information that you would like to know that I did not cover, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. You know I can be found at lisa@lisabeals.com. And until next week, I'll talk to you soon.